And now, it's time for Healing from Within with your host, Tony Valen.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you, and welcome to Healing from Within. I'm your host, Tony Valen. You can contact me, Tony, at tonyvalen.com, or visit our website, healingfromwithin.net. You can also follow us on Twitter at T as in Tom, V as in Victor, HVHFW, at TVHFW. Joining us on today's show is April Lark. April was born an empath. April specializes in Russian Gypsy cards, pendulums, and palm reading. You can learn more about April at www.mysticalsense.com. That's MYSTIKAL, sense, SCENTS.com. She is listed in the readers section of the website. April, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you. April, so let's get started with the conversation by asking you, when did you discover that you had gifts, and what exactly are your gifts?
I was aware of something that was a little different, but didn't think of it in terms as gifts until into earlier adulthood. It was a friend who made me aware of the word empath and being a sensitive or an intuitive, and learning more about that, I'm simply able to feel the energy of others around me. And for those who aren't familiar with that ability, it can be very confusing because you're feeling other energy, whether it's happy, anxious, angry, and through that confusion, you think that those are your emotions. So I feel very lucky that she was able to make me aware of what I could do. I learned a lot about it, and I'm actually able to, kind of put up a little shield, protect myself. I'm aware of the emotions of a friend or a customer of mine, but I don't claim it as my own. I'm just aware of it so that I can better understand and help them.
Okay. And you said you put a shield around yourself or you protect yourself. What exactly is involved with that? What is the process?
I try to keep it as playful as possible. I think of it as a bouncy bubble. My favorite color is purple, so I put this opaque purple bouncy bubble around me. The good and the love can come through, but when it comes to something, more of a negative or toxic emotion, it just bounces right off. And so I say when I put it up, this is up indefinitely until I choose to take it down, and the negative can't come through. And it has made a huge difference for me because the emotions that I feel, they are simply mine and nobody else's. And anybody can do this. I whenever I have a friend or a client, I tell them to do that all the time, and it works.
So we're talking about visualization. Is that what it is?
Visualization, imagination, making a decision, making an agreement with the universe, saying this is simply how it is, this is a fact, and now it is the truth.
So talk to us about the Russian Gypsy cards. How do you use them, and what are they?
I work as a psychic, and that's a deck of cards that I use very often. They are vibrant, they are nature-based symbols, and the deck is basically non-denominational. I've done readings for customers of every spiritual practice. They're simply nature-based. You have trees, mountains, a cat, a horse, an apple. And so I touch the cards, my guest touches the cards, and I lay them out. We lay out all cards as 25, fivers of 5, and we see what matches we get. It's like this big, vibrant puzzle. We take a look at the matches. Each symbol means something for my guest. And we also take a look at the position that it falls into, or if I have to make adjustments, if it falls out that way naturally. And they're so colorful. They have a little bit of a sense of humor. They're very truthful. It'll cover past, present, future. If you have concerns with family, career-related issues, it'll cover pretty much any topic. Whatever comes up in the reading is what my client and I need to talk about. So, for example, the mountains, that means potential for danger ahead, but then there's some that are very straightforward. There's an image that's a picture of money, and of course, money, finances, security, things like that.
So you mentioned there's 25 cards. When you lay down the cards, do you use a certain number of cards or patterns for different types of situations? I mean, like if someone wants to know different questions?
Yes, that's the beauty of it. 25 cards, but the way the images match up, there are 50 images, up to, well, I mean, not all at once, of course, but there are 50 different images that can be used. And so you get a different combination, a different mix and match of images every single time. No two patterns are alike. No two readings are alike. So I take a look. Sometimes the images will connect with each other, and they'll answer questions that are related. What I do is I will ask my client, is there anything specific that you would like to focus on, so that I have a better idea of what to look for. And sometimes my client will say, I just want to leave it open-ended. Whatever comes up is what comes up.
And when this person comes to you for a reading, what can they expect from the time they walk in the door? What is your conversation with them?
If it's a new client, I'm very excited to meet them. I go over all of their options, whether I do a special spread with a moon-based tarot deck. So if they're looking for something a little more traditional, I'll do that for them. If they want something a little different, a little more playful, then I suggest the Gypsy cards. I show them the cards. I factor in pendulum work. I explain that. We go back to our special little reading room, and every experience is unique. No two readings have ever been the same, ever.
So when you go back to your reading room, is this the one room that you always use? I know I've spoken to other psychics and mediums and whatnot, and they like to use the same space because they feel that the energy is building and it continues. And is that how you feel about your space?
I do like to use the same space, but occasionally I do have to clear it out, because if there is frightened or sad or angry energy left behind, I have to clear that out, because I don't want that contaminating the reading for the next client. So sometimes I do need a little clear out with sage.
And this is this do you do it like with a sage wrapped up in a bundle, or do you do it with a feather or in a dish? How does that work?
Whatever I have accessible.
So
there are a few supplies available to me at the shop I work in. So if they have a bundle or if they have loose, it's whatever they have.
And how long have you been doing this type of work?
I've been doing readings with my cards, oh my goodness, since 2006, when the deck found me. It just found its way to me. But I've been working at Mystical Sense doing readings since about 2011.
Wow. Good. Did you take any type of training for this type of work?
No, it just seemed to happen organically, and, as I know my deck really well, but the thing is I still learn from it. Sometimes I'm still learning. If I have a very special client and they want to take things in a different direction, I'm still learning, and that's one of the beautiful things about it is it's never static. It's constantly fluid. It's always changing.
Why don't you tell us about the store that you work at and where it's located so people will know?
Yes, Mystical Sense in Sonota Sassa. It's mystical spelled with a K, and it's down East Fowler Avenue. The address is 9545 East Fowler Avenue, Sonota Sassa, and the zip is 33592, and the number to that store, area code 813-986-3212. It's a wonderful store.
That's also how people can get a hold of you as well, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
This is Tony Valen with Healing From Within. You can follow our show, healingfromwithin.net, or directly contact me, Tony, at TonyValen.com. You can follow our show on Twitter, at TVHFW. We continue speaking to April Lark. April specializes in Russian Gypsy cards, pendulums, and palm readings. So I wanted to ask you, April, what about pendulum? How do you use them, and what purpose do they serve in your business?
For those that are not familiar with pendulum work, when used for divination, for fortune telling, most common use is to connect with It can be on a string, a necklace, a chain, and there's something at the end of it that has significance. It could be a ring, a coin, a stone, a crystal, even a button. It's just something that has special meaning to you. Mm-hmm. And when you connect with it, you would say, please show me no, and it moves in a certain way for no, and then you'd say, please show me yes. It'll move in a different way for yes, and every pendulum is completely different. They say yes and no in different ways. So for divination, when I incorporate that into a reading, I will have my client ask a question. The less that they can tell me, the better, because I don't want to put my own interpretation onto it. They'll ask a question, or sometimes I'll just need a name, and the pendulum will answer with yes or no. Now, they can also be used for healing for anybody that does Reiki or energy work or anything like that. A pendulum can actually tell you which of your chakras are off, and you can balance it by using the pendulum. So that would be another wonderful use for it.
So I wasn't aware of that. So how would you use the pendulum, like to balance out the chakras or whatever? Is it, can you tell me? Because I've never heard of that.
I know a little bit about that, so I don't want you to take that as actual medical fact. But I've done that as a practice in classes, and you have your partner get in a very comfortable position, laying on their back, and you go over the primary chakra. So let's say I'm looking over your heart chakra. If it's not moving, if the pendulum's not moving enough, it means that it might be a little closed off. If the pendulum is moving crazy, wild, it might mean that it's too open. So what you do is through concentration, visualization, you would work on that heart chakra, and then you check again to see if it's balanced and moving just enough, because you don't want a chakra that's blown or completely closed.
So I guess a well-balanced chakra should be something that isn't, like you just said, not completely closed, slightly open. Is that the way a normal person would go through life, just with, half open chakras?
Unfortunately, no. They can open way too far or close up and become too tight from time to time. From what I've learned, it could be different health issues, psychological problems, stress. So, I mean, that's the extent of my understanding. So, I'll stop there when it comes to the chakras.
Right. No, but it makes sense. That I understand what you're saying. So, do you participate at psychic fairs or anything like that, or what are your thoughts on that?
I have worked psychic fairs, and there are other businesses where I've been invited to do so. And Mystical Sense from time to time will have a health fair or a forecasting or a party or a psychic fair, and I will work those also. It's wonderful. It's such a cheerful atmosphere and fun, and sometimes if it's a themed fair, you come in with a little costume or something, or like a fairy festival, come in with your wings and your glitter.
And the other specialty that you also work with is palmistry, reading palms. Yes. Can you give us a little background on that?
Absolutely. Now, for anybody who says that they're going to tell you your future and everything's going to happen in it, that's not what palmistry is for. It's talking about you specifically, where you've been, what you're preconditioned to, what your instincts are, and how you can change if you don't like that. When you read a palm, you actually read the entire thing. You read the lines on the inner wrist, the thumb, the fingers, the shape of the hand. You read everything. The interesting thing is that the lines on the palm, they change. The palm that you have right now, Tony, that's not the one you were born with, and that is not the one that you're going to die with. It changes. If I were to read your palm today and I were to read it a month later, it would be different.
That is so strange. What changes them, your palm?
Life, stress, experiences. You could have certain lines on a palm. If you have a really nasty head cold, it'll change because it also talks about your basic health issues, if you need to start taking a B vitamin or something, or you're iron deficient, you'll be able to tell by looking at it.
I never thought about that.
The things that don't change, though, are the fingers and thumb, unless there's, of course, an injury or illness like arthritis. Otherwise, the fingers and thumb never change.
What about, I know that when I was reading information on you on your bio, you talk about using a mixture of Chinese and European palmistry. What is Chinese palmistry? What is European palmistry, and how do you mix them?
It's, that's the beauty of it. There are many different types of palmistry, so you can just stick to one kind, or you can mix and match. So what I do with European palmistry is when you're looking at the lines or the fingers, you have the classic names, named after the planets or a Greek god or goddess. And then when I mix in the Chinese palmistry, that's when you look at the overall shape of the hand, the length of the fingers and the palm. And the Chinese separate it into elements: earth, air, fire, water, wood, metal. So each shape of the hand is represented by one of those elements. And I combine all of that.
So do you choose a certain type of palmistry modality for the person, or how do you choose which one to use?
It's the same every time with the mixture that I use. There's classical palmistry, which is actually outdated. It was more of a parlor game for, upper class ladies, more than a century ago. And so they would say things like, oh, here's, when you're going to get married, and here's the number of children you're going to have, and that's totally inaccurate. But it's fun to read about it because it's actually quite amusing. But no, the focus of my study is just on those two types specifically that and I'm still learning, and I want to continue to improve in that arena.
Absolutely. It's like anything else in life. We're always learning. No matter how much we know, we have so much more to learn. How do you deal with skeptics, people that come up to you and, just...
Right. Those I enjoy a challenge, and sometimes the skeptic isn't necessarily negative. They're just sometimes the skeptic is simply, I don't know about this. I've seen some phonies in the past, or they have like a prove it to me attitude. It's not always necessarily negative if they're a skeptic. So I love that. Step into the reading room and they'll give me nothing. I'll say, tell me nothing. Let's see what comes up on its own, and I'll do a blind reading for them. And, stuff will come up, and I'll tell them what's going on, what we're meant to discuss. And the less they tell me, the better, because, again, I don't want to put my own interpretation on it. I'd rather tell them just what I'm seeing and feeling and what's coming up. And, more often than not, I turn them into a believer.
Speaking of blind readings, I noticed that when I was reading the information about the place you work, Mystic Sense, the lady says that she does what she does to test people is have them do a blind reading during the interview. So can you tell us what a blind reading is?
Really, the wonderful lady that owns the shop, her name is Pearl, and she's easy to spot because she's got gorgeous pink hair. She did my interview, of course. And I did a blind reading with her. Now, the difference between her and somebody who has kind of a negative attitude about that, Pearl didn't tell me anything, but she left herself open so that I could feel her energy. And it's just like that with a skeptic or a client who, they're not going to, I'm going to do a blind reading with them, but they have themselves open. They don't have a wall up. So whatever's there, I can feel it and share that with them.
What about in your type of work, do you have a closeness with nature, or do you feel like you have to be closer to nature and animals and whatever, or is it just about human energy?
There's a lot about human energy. As far as nature, my way of connecting would be through animals. And, it probably sounds silly to some people, but I do acknowledge elementals and very sensitive to fairies. I actually have some in my backyard, and I'll occasionally leave treats out for them. They keep an eye on my house, and I'm respectful of where they live, and I'll occasionally, they love sweets, so I'll, throw out some cookies or, something of that nature. So I'm sensitive to that.
How do you, well, let me ask you, now I have this question in my mind. Do you see angels?
I am sensitive to them. They, for whatever reason, feel that I do not need to see them, but if there is an angel present with my clients, then I know it, and sometimes they'll reveal their name. Sometimes they just let me know my name isn't important, just let him or her know that I'm here.
Now, what does a fairy look like when you see one?
They can take on any appearance. They can take the appearance of an ant, a squirrel, a flower, but you simply feel it. It's kind of like, I'm being watched right now. So, we're not going to see something traditionally that, looks like a pixie skipping around throwing glitter. They don't make themselves visible to us in that way. It's ways that if you look for them, you can spot them and feel that they're there. And then some people, it doesn't occur to them and they just walk right by them.
So, yeah, because that's the first thing that came into my mind when you said fairies, a pixie with pixie dust and blah, blah, blah. So
that is a misconception about fairies. They're actually not cutesy, playful, little, glittery things. Real fairies, if you read up on it, they're actually kind of scary, and they demand respect, and if you piss them off, they will make you sorry. So they're
really?
They are not to be trifled with.
Oh my God! So have you ever upset one or?
There is a chance that I did. I'm trying to think. It's something that I've been so conscious of it for such a long time. So nothing that I can recall. Now I have friends who they did piss off fairies because there were they love shinies. They love shiny things like keys, tinfoil, coins, and they were there in a specific spot for the fairies, and so they were removed. And the fairies did get pissed off, and there were problems in the backyard, and so it just they'll make things disappear basically if you make them unhappy. I also have a very close connection with the spirit world. So as far as energy that has not passed on, that is stuck in between, I've had contact with that on numerous occasions. Sometimes it'll attach itself to me and follow me home and come into my house, and then I have to do a cleansing because, nobody wants a ghost in their house. Nobody wants energy. It doesn't belong, and they need to move on and find the light. And sometimes they'll get a little attitude with me if I don't ask them to leave the right way. Sometimes I'll get struck, like a slap on the forehead or something. So you have to be not demanding but firm when you tell them that it's time to move on.
When you help people and you're helping them heal from within with your gifts and tools, how do you think you help people with your gifts?
To start with, sometimes just to have somebody sit with you and listen to you and answer your questions and validate your feelings, sometimes that can move mountains. That can help out a person so much, just to feel like somebody cares and listens to you and wants to help you, and just it feels good to be validated. So that's one part. That's the beginning. Another part is I encourage my clients to modify their language. If they say, I want a good job, that's a very common thing. That's something that everybody needs. The problem is the universe is constantly listening to us and will take us at our word verbatim and wants to agree with us. So if I'm saying I want a really good job, the universe is listening to me and says, okay, April, you want a really good job. I'm going to make sure that you're always wanting it. And we don't realize that we're getting ourselves stuck by simply saying the wrong thing. So you say, I want or I need. Okay, you're going to constantly want or need whatever it is that you would like to acquire. So I encourage them to try to not use those words and instead talk about the present. I deserve, I have, I am worthy of, it's happening right now. It's easy for us to say want, but for a lot of people, it's tricky to, with authority, to completely believe it when you say, I deserve, I am worthy of. I'm worthy of this wonderful thing that needs to be a part of my life. It's tricky for us to say that and believe it. So I encourage them to realize you do deserve and you are worthy of. And when you make that agreement, when it becomes your truth, it is going to happen.
I deserve, not I want. Is that correct?
Correct.
Got it. What about, what does healing mean to you?
Healing, it's different for every single person. If you're talking about physical, emotional, psychological healing, it can mean recovery. Healing, I believe, means working toward constant improvement, because I don't believe in perfection. I don't believe that it's possible for somebody to be in a constant state of joy, but if you strive toward constant improvement, focusing on deserving and acquiring and having contentment and just knowing, you know what, I did my best. I did my best, and that is amazing and wonderful. And simply being comfortable in one's own skin. The healing starts with making yourself your first and most important priority. A lot of us forget to do that, and we get busy taking care of everybody else. The problem is we give so much and forget about ourselves that our vessel becomes empty, and then how can you serve from an empty vessel? And if you make yourself the first and number one most important priority, it has a trickle-down effect. It's loving because you're fulfilled, and then everybody else benefits because you feel good and you have that energy and that excitement to keep working and keep giving.
Wonderful. Do you have a healing mantra?
Not really a mantra. It changes from time to time. It depends on the situation, the mood, but whatever I can say that's appropriate for the moment and make it as positive as possible.
Our special thanks to April Lark for being on our show. You can learn more about April at www.mysticalsense.com. That's M as in Mary, YSTIK as in kite, AL, sense, SCENTS.com. You can also reach us directly at healingfromwithin.net or email me, Tony@TonyValen.com. Thank you so much for joining us every week for our show. We keep growing and growing, and we really appreciate all our fans. Thanks so much, and have a blessed week.